3:51 a.m., Belbek, Crimea. Boom, that $300 million fireball is lighting up the coast. It isn't just a MiG-31, it's Putin's entire seat at the next peace summit going up in smoke. In 60 seconds, Ukraine didn't just erase an airfield, they erased Russia's leverage over the West. Their invincible radar net is now a pile of glowing slag, and the Kremlin is officially flying blind. 3 a.m., December 18th. The southern coast of Ukraine is darker than a coal miner's pocket and cold enough to make a brass monkey worried. This is where SBU Alpha's elite drone teams are prepping for the gutsiest heist of the year. They aren't just launching for fun. They've been tracking a specific Russian supply schedule for 96 hours using satellite thermal feeds and local spotters. Intelligence just confirmed the nightmare scenario. A Russian MiG-31 Foxhound is sitting on the Belbek tarmac in Crimea, currently being stuffed with high-octane fuel and hypersonic Kinzhal missiles for a sunrise strike. If that bird gets airborne, it's a direct threat to Kiev and a massive I win button for Putin to blackmail the West at the upcoming peace summit. The problem is, Belbek isn't some open-air market. It's the fortress guarding Sevastopol wrapped in a steel shield that makes Fort Knox look like a lemonade stand. We're talking Nebo SVU radars that can spot a Sparrow at 370 miles S-400 missile batteries and Pantsir S-2 units that spit lead and missiles like a Gatling gun on steroids. Ukraine's answer: a fleet of FP-2 Firepoint drones, fixed-wing Predators carrying 110-pound tandem-charge warheads. To survive, these boys have to fly 150 miles across hostile territory, skimming less than 100 feet above the waves to stay under the radar. It's a 150-mile high-wire act where one wrong turn or one power line means a $300 million Russian asset survives to fight another day. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the clock is officially ticking. At 3:15 a.m., the FP-2 drones hit the Crimean coastline and the real high-wire act begins. These aren't just flying, they are nap of the earth, maneuvering, threading through valley floors at 140 miles per hour. They're hugging the rugged terrain so tight that the Crimean mountains act as a physical wall between the drones and the Russian radar waves. In the trade, we call this terrain masking. It's the equivalent of a football team running a silent, no-huddle offense through a blizzard. The defense knows someone is coming, they just can't see the jersey numbers. The drones are skimming less than 60 feet above the jagged rocks, using every hill and ridge as a shield, gliding like ghosts through the darkness toward the heart of the Russian beast. Meanwhile, inside the climate-controlled command bunker at Belbek, the Russian radar operators are feeling like the smartest guys in the room. A major sits there casually sipping hot tea, staring at the glowing consoles of the Nebo SVU. This VHF band monster is supposedly the stealth killer, capable of tracking 300 targets simultaneously across a 370-mile radius. He looks at his clear screen and scoffs, thinking the steel shield is impenetrable. Nearby, the Pantsir S-2 crews are lounging in their cabs, their autoloader magazines stuffed with 57 E-6 missiles like a Texas gun show on opening day. They are confident, arrogant, and fully loaded, waiting for a fight that they think will be as easy as swatting flies. At 3:20 a.m., the SBU Alpha team initiates the Hounds of Hades. 20 Gerbera drones, Ukraine's newest plywood and foam decoys, suddenly pop up on the Russian radar horizon like a bad rash. Now don't let the cheap materials fool you. These Gerberas are equipped with Lundberg lenses, tiny spheres that catch and amplify radar waves. To a Russian operator, a $2,000 piece of foam looks exactly like a $100 million B-52 bomber. The Ukrainian pilots split these 20 decoys into 4 distinct groups of 5, banking them left and right, performing a synchronized fake-out that would make an NFL quarterback jealous. Over at the Belbek Command Center, the tea drinking is over. The Major's radar screen is suddenly flooded with what looks like a massive multi-vector cruise missile strike. He doesn't hesitate, he can't. He authorizes a full-spectrum defensive response. This isn't just some disorganized panic. The Russians are disciplined and they fight back hard. 6 Pantsir S-1 and S-2 batteries erupt in a symphony of destruction. Each Pantsir launches 2 57 E-6 missiles in rapid succession. That's 12 missiles per battery, screaming into the night at Mach 3. At the same time, 2 Su-35S fighters on quick reaction alert scramble from the secondary runway, their afterburners lighting up the Crimean hills as they race to intercept the Ghosts with R-77-1 air-to-air missiles. For a few minutes, it looks like Russia is actually winning. Their 30mm twin-barrel autocannons are chewing up the sky, spitting out 400-500 rounds per minute, creating a literal wall of lead. They're swatting Gerbers out of the air left and right, and the Russian crews are high-fiving, convinced they've just saved the airfield from total annihilation. However, the sheer volume of this response is exactly what Ukraine wanted. In a brutal twist, the more the Russians fire, the more they blind themselves. The sky is now filled with a chaff of burning plywood foam and thousands of metallic fragments from their own expended missile boosters. And then the moment of absolute heart-stopping tension arrives. A sharp-eyed Russian operator on a backup optical tracker spots a low-flying shape that doesn't look like a decoy. It's one of the real FP-2 strike drones skimming just 40 feet above the hangar roofs. He bypasses the jammed radar and slews his 30mm cannons manually. Tracers start stitching the air just inches from the drone's carbon fiber wings. Back in the Ukrainian command center, the operator's heart is pounding against his ribs. He yanks his controller, forcing the FP-2 into a desperate 4G banking turn that nearly clips a railway signal post. The drone wobbles, fighting the ground effect, but stays airborne. The Russian defense is now hitting a critical bottleneck. Those Pantsir systems carry only 12 missiles on the rails. To reload them, you need a specialized transloader vehicle and about 15 minutes of quiet time the Russians don't have. They've just burned through their entire ready magazine on $2,000 foam decoys. As the last Su-35 missile detonates a piece of plywood 5 miles away, the empty lights on the Pantsir consoles start blinking like a cheap motel sign. The steel shield is officially down, and the real Firepoint predators are now less than 60 seconds from the runway. At 3:30 a.m., the atmosphere at Belbek Airfield shifts from arrogant confidence to pure, unadulterated panic. The Russian major in the bunker finally realizes the 20 blips they just incinerated were nothing but plywood and foam. He looks at his backup thermal sensors and sees the real nightmare. 15 FP-2 strike drones, each carrying a 110-pound warhead, are skimming the tarmac at 160 miles per hour. These aren't decoys. These are the real deal, and they are less than 1,000 yards from the runway. Now let's talk about the target, because it's a powder keg waiting for a match. Sitting right there in the hot pit is a Russian MiG-31 Foxhound. This isn't just a jet, it's a $35 million target that's currently tethered to an ATMZ-11 fuel truck. High-octane kerosene is being pumped into its tanks at 500 gallons per minute. Under a frantic no-delay order from Moscow, the ground crew is taking a suicidal risk, winching a 400-pound Kinjal hypersonic missile onto its underbelly while the fuel lines are still connected. The MiG's engines are idling, drawing massive amounts of fuel, making it a giant vibrating bomb that's literally pinned to the ground by refueling hoses and heavy-duty winches. It can't taxi, it can't take off, and it sure as heck can't hide. But the Russians aren't just going to let their prize be erased. Since the Pantsir missiles are gone, every soldier on that base is grabbing whatever they can find. This is the last stand of the Belbek ground defense. The Russian troops on the perimeter are well trained for point defense, and they start connecting. A lucky burst from a Pantsir's 30mm cannon catches the lead FP-2 drone's wing spar. The carbon fiber snaps like a dry twig, and the drone tumbles into a ball of fire 500 yards short of the runway. Moments later, a Russian paratrooper on a hangar roof, a guy who clearly hasn't slept in 2 days but has eyes like a hawk, manages a manual skin track lock with his Igla S. He doesn't wait for the heat seeker to chirp. He just leads the target by eye and lets fly. The missile slams into a second drone, vaporizing it instantly. But the Russians aren't done. A third drone trying to weave through the perimeter lighting towers gets caught in a crossfire of 12.7mm heavy machine gun rounds from a nearby security jeep. The kinetic energy of those big slugs shreds the drone's flight controller, sending it screaming into a concrete barrier. Inside the Ukrainian command center, 150 miles away, the mission success meter is bleeding into the red. They've already lost 3 drones in the first 60 seconds of the final approach. The commander sees his formation getting shredded and makes a split-second tactical pivot. Break formation. Execute the triple wave saturation now. This is where the battle turns into a lethal game of 3-card Monty. The remaining 12 drones split up. The first wave, the sacrificial 5, climbs to 300 feet, making themselves loud, proud, and very visible. It works. Every Russian gunner on the base looks up. The Pantsir cannons tilt back and open up, chewing the sky into a tapestry of tracers. 2 more Ukrainian drones are shredded within seconds, their debris raining down on the taxiway. However, that's exactly what the SBU Alpha Boys wanted. While the Russians are busy playing skeet shoot with the first wave, the second wave of 4 drones drops to just 20 feet off the deck. They are hugging the concrete using parked Su-27s and maintenance trailers as literal shields. One drone clips a refueling cart and cartwheels into a hangar, but the other 3 slip through the gaps. They aren't going for the jet yet, they are going for the support infrastructure. At the hot pit, the situation is a recipe for a $300 million funeral. The MiG-31 Foxhound is pinned down its tanks, being gorged with 500 gallons of high-octane kerosene every minute. The ground crew is frantically trying to lock a 400-pound Kinjal missile onto its belly, but the winch is stuck. Ironically, the very weapon designed to destroy cities is now a massive dangling anchor keeping the jet from escaping. The Russian major in the bunker is screaming into his radio, but the chaos on the ground is absolute. As the fuel crew sees the third wave of drones cresting the perimeter fence, they lose their cool. They don't just stop, they yank the high-pressure fuel hoses out without shutting off the pumps. Thousands of gallons of raw, aerosolized kerosene start spraying across the tarmac, creating a literal lake of fire-ready liquid right under the MiG's idling engines. The final wave of 3 FP2 Predators is now inside the inner circle. The first drone of this group takes a 5.45 mm round straight through its camera lens. The screen goes black for the operator, and the drone crashes harmlessly into a pile of sandbags. Now it's down to the last 2. The primary strike drone locks its thermal sensor onto the fuel truck's pump assembly. The target square on the operator's screen turns a solid blood red. He's got 400 yards to go. The Russian soldiers are so close they're trying to swat the drone with their rifle butts as it screams past them at 160 miles per hour, 300 yards. The heat from the MiG's idling engines is creating a massive thermal shimmer, making the camera feed dance and jitter, 200 yards. A Russian sergeant on a rooftop desperately tries to lead his shot, his tracers missing the drone's tail by less than 2 inches. 100 yards. The steel shield is in tatters, and the pride of the Russian aerospace forces is sitting in a pool of its own fuel. 50 yards. The operator can see the individual rivets on the fuel truck. He's not just aiming for the truck, he's aiming for the exact spot where the fuel hose meets the MiG's intake. It's a surgical strike in the middle of a hurricane, locked on, no turning back. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Impact. The 110-pound shaped charge doesn't just explode, it achieves perfect terminal geometry. The jet of molten copper traveling at 35,000 feet per second punches through the fuel truck's pump assembly and the MiG-31's fuselage like a hot needle through silk. In a microsecond, that 500-gallon-per-minute fuel flow meets a supersonic explosion. The initial blast is a hellish orange fireball that reaches 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It instantly vaporizes the 840 tons of diesel and high-octane kerosene nearby. But the real nightmare for Moscow is the secondary explosion. The half-winched Kinjal missile, a 400-pound beast of supersonic destruction, cooks off right under the MiG's belly. The result is a shockwave so violent it shatters every window within 5 miles and sends a mushroom cloud of burning titanium and jet fuel 500 feet into the air. However, this is where the SBU Alpha Boys reveal their ultimate Ghost Echo plot. You see, an explosion that massive doesn't just create heat. It creates a vortex of superheated debris and dense metallic smoke. This cloud, combined with millions of shredded fragments from the MiG and the fuel truck, creates a phenomenon called kinetic saturation on steroids. Back in the Russian command bunker, the Nebo SVU radar, Putin's $150 million stealth killer, suddenly has a digital heart attack. The AI algorithm designed to track 300 targets is suddenly flooded with 10,000 clutter echoes from the burning debris and intense heat shimmer. The screen turns into a blurred mess of white noise. It's like trying to find a specific grain of sand in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. The radar system freezes for a critical 90 seconds as it tries to process the impossible data. In that window of total electronic blindness, the remaining Ukrainian drones, the ones that had been waiting in the shadows, lunge for the throat. They aren't going for jets anymore. They are going for the eyes. One drone slams directly into the massive VHF antenna array of the Nebo SVU. Another locks its thermal camera onto the 92N6 fire control radar of the S-400 system, the brain of the entire Crimean air defense. Without its radar, the S-400 is just a very expensive collection of heavy trucks. The FP2 slams into the radar dish with mathematical precision, turning the most advanced sensor in the Russian arsenal into a pile of glowing scrap metal. The math of this disaster is absolutely brutal. I mean, absolutely brutal for the Kremlin. In one single night, for the price of about $120,000 in modified hobbyist drones, Ukraine erased upwards of $300 million in strategic assets. That's a return on investment of about 250,000%. Even the hungriest hedge fund manager on Wall Street couldn't dream of numbers like that. But the real damage isn't just the money. By wiping out the Nebo SVU and the 92N6 fire control unit, Ukraine just ripped a hole in the steel shield of Crimea so wide you could drive a carrier strike group through it. Belbek was the eye that protected Sevastopol and the entire Black Sea fleet. Now that eye is gone, Moscow is left with a strategic dilemma. Do they leave Crimea blind and vulnerable to cruise missile strikes, or do they pull precious air defense systems away from the front lines to fix this hole? Every S-300 they move back to Crimea is one less system protecting their tanks in the Donbass. Ukraine didn't just win a battle tonight, they forced Putin into a checkmate. They proved that no matter how many billions you spend on invincible tech, you can't defeat a clever opponent with a few drones and a lot of guts. So folks, what do you think? If you were the commander of the SBU, what would you target next now that the eyes of Crimea are closed? Drop a comment below. Until next time, stay sharp. Bye for now.